My name is Erica Lorraine Spencer, and I remain subject to state surveillance and terrorism by the state of California that is operating a malicious targeting system, which is referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices. And it is in violation of federal stalking statute 18 U.S.C. sections 2261A subsections 1 and 2. My website and podcast serve the public good by publishing evidence of the public entity's ceaseless engagement in a pattern of conduct intended to stalk and monitor via communication devices, surveil, harass, and terrorize an American citizen in concert with the people of the state of California. Documentation serves the lawful purposes of wide exposure, federal prosecution, and influencing federal legislation with policies specifically designed to punish, dismantle, and disincentivize an unprecedented targeting system by a public entity that acts in concert with the people of the state in order to criminally place under surveillance and terrorize an American citizen, which is a matter of public corruption in the state of California. Erica Lorraine Spencer here. The following is an audio version of video evidence that is captured for purposes of mass distribution, which is why I am capturing it and sharing it on the podcast for evidentiary purposes and also to reveal the wealth of documentation that extends beyond what it is that I document on podcasts. Much of the video and images will be published onto the YouTube channel, the P.O.C, and it is also shared on the Google Drive. Again, this is for purposes of revealing what I remain subject to, which is federal group stalking and monitoring. It is a demonic system of state surveillance that the government is practicing in concert with the people of the state. And it should be known and well understood that for the government to engage in federal group stalking and monitoring, this is a crime that is committed with a criminal purpose to threaten the life of an American citizen. This is to conspire to murder and or permanently kidnap an American citizen while engaging in a perpetual sex offense in concert with the people of the state. This is P.O.C. This is the impossible light activity. My shadow, multiple shadows appearing upright. License 8GEN638 is gang stalking in the parking lot right now. This is 3 shadows of my hand upright through what is again very hazy. There's no sun. Okay, you know that this isn't the natural sun, and you know that that's stalking in the path. License 6GEN638, gang stalking with RGS, impunity. Again, all of those that are gang stalking that are immigrants are going to be deported. They're going to federal prison. RGS employees and the company RGS is going to be civilly and criminally prosecuted. They're monitoring on their communication devices under the fake sun and in engineered light. It is directly tethered to this impossible light activity that's occurring upright inside of an apartment, defying the natural environment. That's the malice where an entity is practicing stalking as a massive and severely egregious sex offense. That's what RGS is engaged in, a sex offense, and RGS is profiting while they're practicing sexual violence. Coming onto the grounds, gang stalking with the demons in units 33 through 64, the Latina female with the gray head, she's crossing path while engineered light is appearing on this patio, okay? This is, again, you see my shadow appearing way over here? That's impossible light activity. That's stalking. Okay, they were stalking under the fake sun at 11 o'clock in the morning yesterday, and they're gang stalking, monitoring my genitalia now. Grabbing their landscaping tools is called crossing path and ongoing impunity. That's why RGS is going to be prosecuted, and companies like AVANATH, criminally facilitating sexual violence, gang stalking a woman. This is in violation of the Violence Against Women Act. This is removing all of the entity that's living in all 144 units, as they're going to be prosecuted for violence against women violations, and doing so repeatedly and ongoing as an ongoing system, refusing to cease to do so as the one that they're gang stalking is documenting it. That's speaking to the violence that of the sex offense, okay? This is the environment where the city of Ontario is going to arrive again today, like I documented them already, gang stalking under the fake sun, which puts those City of Ontario employees in prison. All right, the entity that was documented, and you're looking at this engineered light appear more and more while a demon is simultaneously crossing path. This is what Uber Eats was engaged in under this fake sun. This is what the demon in unit number 42 was engaged in under this fake sun at 11:40 a.m. That's over the same building. This light activity has nothing to do with sunlight. The engineered light and the fake sun documentation is speaking to what is a pattern of conduct of stalking, using the RGS vehicles, stalking in the path. This is in furtherance of murder and kidnapping, all right? And this is a federal offense of a sexual nature as well, and they are monitoring evidence while they're committing that ongoing sex offense of gang stalking. You are engaged in no lawful employment, no legitimate business, while the federal system of federal group stalking monitoring is underway. You're looking at what is a disappearance rapidly of the engineered light. It coincides with the movement of a vehicle and the vehicle lights, and this is again where the fake sun is. You already know that the fake sun is here, but it's not an explanation for the impossible light activity. You also are paying attention to the impossibility with regard to the maintenance of the fake sun. You're understanding the illusion of the system. The engineered light is supposed to be sunlight, and then you're also looking at what's supposed to be the sun, even though it stays over this building for over 9 hours, and everything that's happening in this environment is pursuant to a system of stalking. Everybody that's living where you're stalking in order to secretly target somebody, in order to murder and kidnap them, they're going to prison, all right? And this is the elderly community gang stalking in the state of California at Woodside Senior Apartments, where there's no sun that would ever create any sunlight like you see at a distance, brightening and getting dimmer, simultaneous with the crossing a path of a corrupt company, RGS, that's a sex offender of a Latino descent. I just want to be clear with regard to identification. They're acting with impunity because they know what I documented about them yesterday. They know what I documented them about every single day, and they continuously engage in what is federal group stalking and monitoring, not a lawful contract for landscaping with AVANATH. It's criminal facilitation. That's why Daryl J. Carter and the executives of AVANATH Capital Management are also going to be prosecuted. 8GEN638 is engaged in criminal surveillance, gang stalking, monitoring all of this right now. They're maintaining presence in the path. And you know that because at 8 o'clock in the morning when I documented this same demon, while engineered light moved, swept across the ceiling, just like the ILA I showed you yesterday and the day before that, this is what's ongoing while that fake sun remained over me as I walked to that end of the parking lot. Okay, that's the pattern of conduct, all right? And while I move my engineered light is a method of surveillance. That's why it's inside of Tracy Banks's apartment, okay? Identifying sex offenders and stalkers. All right, this is again not the sun, but what you will pay attention to, the fake sun is here at 7:31 in the morning, and you know the fake sun is still here after 4:30 in the evening, where RGS is gang stalking as a means of profiting off of federal group stalking and monitoring. That's speaking to what is prosecuting civilly and criminally. And those that are gang stalking as employees are subject to federal prison. This is what the city of Ontario is relying on the population to engage in, okay? It is, again, this engineered light is what you're paying attention to. It is the recognition of the specific environment. There's no constitutional protected rights under any circumstances by the entity that's engaged in surveilling an American citizen, and they're doing so with the Ontario International Airport. While engineered light just appears out of nowhere, that's where the entity is gang stalking in planes, okay? And it's amplified in volume. GEN638, this is federal stalking. And this is, by the way, a pattern. This is federal prison right here, 8GEN638. This is P.O.C. License 7N98091 is RGS, acting with impunity, gang stalking, that's terrorism via commercial planes, using their vehicle doors as a means of audible activity, walking around. Everything they're doing is engaged in the elements of monitoring, while you're seeing my hand show up at a distance in front of me, underneath a covered patio, under a fake sun that's here at 7:30 and remains after 4:30. The demons on Vine Avenue are gang stalking in traffic, and this is openly engaging in what is impunity and malice, gang stalking an American citizen, terrorizing an American citizen in their face, because that's what 8GEN638 is engaging in. And they're all sex offenders worshiping my genitalia as a community as well. All right, those that are not natural born citizens, because it's not only Latinos who are immigrating in this country, any race that's been granted the privilege to be in this country is going to be deported. Okay, it is currently 7:33 a.m. This is the criminal act of AVANATH Capital Management. It's a criminal act of Linda Reyes and all the employees at Woodside, because they're all going to prison. All right, and AVANATH Capital Management is criminally facilitating domestic terrorism, doing so while profiting. This is not the legitimate engagement. All of this is activity creation while an ongoing program of psychological torture remains underway. The fake sun that remains over this edge of the building at 8 o'clock in the morning is not the sun, while you're looking at what is not sunlight. That's remaining in a position that's never the explanation for what was my shadow appearing. That's speaking to light, by the way, that's shooting like a laser, not coming from the sun. And you also know that it's not the sun because it's still here over this same exact building at 11 o'clock, 12, 1, 2, 3, after 4 o'clock in the evening, in perfect alignment with me, by the way, over the same patio, coating the same patio door, where your shadow is never creating multiple shadows. This is speaking to the malice. This is Malice of AVANATH Capital Management. It's employees that live at the venue in unit number 41, the population, the city of Ontario, the local government, Paul Leon, that's gang stalking, and his entire office, the city of Ontario International Airport that's going to be shut down, the Ontario Police Department that's going to be disbanded, and all those in units 33 through 64 who are going to federal prison, irrespective of how old you are, their old selves are going to prison. This is in furtherance of murdering and kidnapping American citizens, and you see they practice it with impunity. This impossible light activity that's appearing and disappearing that I documented, impunity. Arriving on a daily basis to commit the simultaneous federal offense of gang stalking, impunity. All right, that's P.O.C. This is what Tracy Banks was engaging in while she was pacing in and out of the living room, and I showed you impossible light activity. All right, the entity arriving earlier with the fake sun, and I put arriving, but this is documentation that the entity engages in because it knows what I document. It does not ever make the fake sun documentation consistent when it is remaining a fake sun that is nonetheless documented at an earlier hour. If you'll recall what I documented in fall of 2024, the fake sun rises right here at 7:18. All right, so you're talking about what is this ongoing movement on either side while the entity is stalking in plain sight. All right, those that are not natural born, again, departing in order to maintain presence, simultaneously exiting light vehicle lights, walking in engineered light, those are the ones that are going to prison. And those are the ones also that are worthy of being deported if they're not natural born citizens. They actually hate this country, walking in engineered light, living under a fake sun, in furtherance of murder and kidnapping someone, and acting with his gang stalking mama or grandma, 8 GEN 638, that's simultaneous conduct. Driving out this way, light activity, walking past this way under the fake sun and an engineered light that disappears. This is very demonic, what I'm showing you. This demonic system is designed to and intended to psychologically torture somebody, and the entity is doing so against a federal prosecutor in the face of federal law that they're aware of because they're monitoring all the evidence as well. RGS is doing nothing but pacing, opening and closing doors. They're doing so in engineered light that's appearing and disappearing, just like you see around me. They're monitoring. Okay, if any of those Latino males are not natural born, you're going to happily deport them. Okay, the company RGS is being prosecuted. It's headquartered in Anaheim, California as well. It is currently 7:36 a.m. This is a sex offense that's underway, a sex offense committed by a community. And the demon in Unit 55 is awake. She's not sleeping while the community comes onto the grounds to engage in that P.O.C. The entity, I just want you to see up close. Here it is, impossible light activity. All right, you have what is multiple shadows of my hand upright while the door is at a distance away. That's not natural light activity, nor is it like you saw outside. That's speaking of stalking. Okay, stalking by the state. This is where the city of Ontario is scheduled to arrive today. That's to engage in federal group stalking and monitoring in person. All right, and the city that's acting directly is subject to federal prison. They're criminally facilitating public corruption. They are monitoring evidence. The city of Ontario knows exactly who I am, knows exactly what it is that I've documented, and they are fully engaged in criminal activity with AVANATH Capital Management, maintaining real estate in the city of Ontario, practicing federal group stalking and monitoring as a means of corrupt business, and facilitating the pattern of conduct while demons that are strangers are walking by the engineered light to monitor me and monitor my devices in violation of existing federal. There are also strangers that monitor my genitalia, knowing when my panties are down, knowing what I'm doing in a private space. That's the sexual violence that the demon-possessed don't want you to know about while they're stalking him. Recall, this is what the AVANATH Capital Management employee in unit number 41 was doing while I'm documenting video under that fake sun at what is 4:56 p.m. yesterday. This is where the fake sun is still remaining. Or excuse me, 3:56 p.m. It was at the end of the day where the fake sun is remaining right over here, over me nonetheless. This is where the fake sun is at 3:30 in the afternoon. That's identifying stalkers, okay? These stalkers that are maliciously targeting, they're going to prison in units 33 through 64. So let me communicate that again. I'm speaking to legislating federal group stalking monitoring. They're going to prison. So is Linda Reyes. So are all the employees at AVANATH. So are the demons that are gang stalking under the commercial means such as RGS, whose license plates and employee identifications. The demons are going to produce themselves because they're going to prison. All right, literally their business records become criminal admissions against them in court for conspiring to murder and kidnap someone in concert with the state, doing so in the environment that defies nature, that is for the malicious engagement and a whole demonic, satanic operation that the government practices, and it's gang stalking. It's federal group stalking and monitoring, where federal stalking is underway by the entity that is targeting one, and now they're targeting somebody that's documenting in order to prosecute, and that's speaking to impunity and malice and severe mental instability, which is no longer closeted. Okay, this is P.O.C. This is what Tracy Banks was doing when she's waking me up. That's the state that's waking me up in this apartment. Me taking a picture of her in the living room is criminal presence by the state that has no warrant or probable cause. This demon is so obsessed with trying to inflict harms to me, she is exposing herself to more and more federal time. She's never getting out of a mental asylum. But the people of the state that are gang stalking, like you see here, with impunity, all those demons know that they're in engineered light. They know what I'm saying. They know what I'm documenting. I am the actual focus, and you're aware of that because of the supernatural character of this environment. So now they look like psychopaths when they're not talking to you, not addressing you, and everybody's looking like poor actors on a stage, and I'm showing you everything that they're doing. That level of malice requires federal prison. That level of impunity requires federal prison. That's RGS, that's AVANATH Capital Management, that's AVANATH Capital Management's employees that are going to prison. The demons in units 33 through 64 are going to federal prison, and these are the demon-possessed that are living amongst engineer light, that are using the demonic in order to torture, psychologically torture, and target an American citizen who ordinarily doesn't have the evidence and the facts and the wherewithal to even maintain the ability to analyze, like I'm showing you, and break down, and also seek to legislate and prosecute. This is designed to break the ordinary mindset of an ordinary person, because I'm normal. But you're talking about what is extraordinary regarding what I've exposed and speaking to how you prosecute it, and I understand that. I'm advocating on behalf of the ordinary person that doesn't have this ability to do so, and they are fully entitled to justice under the law and laws that shall come into existence. All right, this is a sex offense because this is evidence that they're monitoring my genitalia between my legs, and I never consented to any male or female, nor incestuous sex offender like Tracy Banks and her son Eric Spencer. None of them have any consent, and that's exactly what the state of California is engaged in, and it's an illegitimate interest. What's between my legs and what's going on inside of a private space. It is the P.O.C. where the entire population that is engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring is an exposed sex offender. They're married, they're dating other people, they're engaged in what is living a life of what is a secret system of surveillance, and this is what the city of Ontario is exposed. While the exclusivity of the sun remains over one apartment building, the entire city is gang stalking. That's what you're deducing from the demonic methods that are clearly identified in tangible evidence prosecuting all of these demons. AGEN 638, that's bound to federal prison. And he is going to federal prison. Both of them are, because they live in units 33 through 64. They're going to prison. All right? They're doing so with impunity while the entity flies over by aircraft. That airport's being shut down. They are a threat to national security. Demon-possessed psychopaths are flying commercial planes and government planes engaged in gang stalking. Those are the same ones that are murdering American citizens, flying into skyscrapers, flying into buildings and bodies of water, murdering people, not having accidents, flying into each other inside in the airspace. They're murdering people when they're engaged in acts of domestic terrorism, not accidents. All right, it is currently, again, 7:41 a.m. This is removing the sex offender. All right, this closeted demon, Paul Leon, and it's shutting down all the corrupt departments that I've already heavily documented, gang stalking me, and contact with the population who are the people of the state. It is, again, 7:42 a.m. This is P.O.C. It is currently Friday, February 28th, 2025. It is documentation. This is commentary, in other words, regarding the video evidence captured, and this is also coinciding with the not only, remember the big picture with regard to prosecuting the state, this is prosecuting the government from all angles. So I have images, including screenshots and pictures. I have video evidence, and I have audio evidence, which is in the form of the podcast. So I am adding commentary because this is speaking to the documentation that is largely in text and images. This documentation that began as the entity that is Tracy Banks. This is literally an entity because this is a demon-possessed third party who is, Satan is literally using her vessel, while this is, again, somebody that practices witchcraft. This is a demon-possessed person employing demonic methods of targeting me while I'm living inside of an apartment with a demon that is also engaged in criminal activity, monitoring me. So this is not constitutionally protected demonic methods of targeting someone. It's criminal activity that's committed on behalf of the government that's acting vicariously through a third party in a private space. There are layers of what is legally significant aspects to the P.O.C. that I'm documenting. And at 5:57 a.m., that's what I want to discuss. This demon, Tracy Banks, her license 9HUZ740. She is pacing around me. Again, as I've not only proven through evidence and your understanding of the context, but you are also understanding on its surface. It's not like I have to talk you into what it is that you're looking at. You can clearly see the sun is remaining over the same apartment building from 7 in the morning, like I captured today. And you remember that it was over the same apartment building while AVANATH Capital Management's employee incriminating itself, like I stated yesterday in the evidence, as you are looking at the same object in the sky over the same location. That is speaking to intent. That is speaking to knowledge. That is speaking to mental instability of a malicious psychopath who's highly delusional and so bold to engage in before the federal government domestic terrorism. Okay. And then you're getting into how you're going to prosecute these terrorists, especially those granted the privilege to be in this country. And that privilege shall not include keeping an American citizen criminally under surveillance in concert with a corrupt government, engaged in what is public corruption so that it can secretly target an American citizen in order to kidnap or murder them. Because you could be subject to a kidnapping and then subject to a murder. And it's a murder because you are subject to the pattern of conduct because these demon-possessed police officers and demon-possessed deputies, demon-possessed medical workers are gang stalking in the facilities. And this is an ongoing threat to your life, and any loss of life is pursuant to the ongoing monitoring that they're engaging in. Their gang stalking and psychological torture is underway at the jails and at the mental wards where they're engaging in kidnapping as they exercise authority that they don't have under the law while they kidnap someone like they did me in order to criminally defame me in furtherance of this very pattern of conduct. Okay, so that's why I say murder or kidnapping, where you could be subject to both, a kidnapping and then loss of your life, which is not an accident. It's not an oversight. It's not an act of negligence or every other way that it is categorized under existing law. It's a murder. And it is reasonably foreseeable that there should be a loss of life, which is maliciously accomplished upon federal group stalking and monitoring. Okay, so I just want to go over that, but you will see the documentation in the document entitled WSA-The People. And what I want to go over is that the entity is engaged in psychological torture and harassment. And this is something that a violent sex offender, a psychopath like Tracy Banks, is excited to engage in. And I'm also capturing that in the documentation. This is a demon, and you are aware also the documentation where they're engaging in the pattern of conduct centered on what I document as I documented when they're under a supernatural occurrence like sunlight appearing underneath structures into the depths of apartments, across the ceiling, across the floor. None of this is sunlight. None of this is sunlight that creates four shadows of my one hand. It is as supernatural while the demon-possessed do know what you're doing on your devices. This knowledge I have proven through their pattern of conduct, however. What are you learning about as I'm prosecuting the demon-possessed who are criminals engaged in domestic terrorism? You are aware of the fact that Satan, who is a spirit, uses people who are referred to as demon-possessed, which you are not going to be ignorant about any longer. And you also know about what they're aware regarding you, that they are aware and they are monitoring, meaning they know what you're doing on your phone, on your laptop. They know what you're typing, even while they're in another room apart from you. They know what you're documenting about them while they keep their back to you. And even while they carry on conversation with you, even smiling in your face, while they will also be walking back and forth, they'll be pacing. And if they're not, they're stalking in the path stationary while somebody else is maintaining presence in the path, whether you see it or not. This is the ongoing conduct of the demon possessed, who are engaged in monitoring everything on the internet, monitoring everything on communication devices, and monitoring you, your person. Every physical movement. And the demon possessed, that is Satan itself, who is a spirit, are also aware of what it is that you are thinking about, what it is that is going on in your mind when you're in a conscious state and in an unconscious state. Okay? This is all relevant with regard to educating the public who is witnessing me prosecute in the physical a criminal system that is practiced by the demon possessed. And it's the state of California is being prosecuted for gang stalking, federal group stalking, and monitoring. Okay, so the entity is inside of Tracy Banks' apartment because that's what she represents. All right. And this is someone that is blinded by an obsession with trying to find any way to inflict harm by just interfering with sleep. So this demon is engaged in all night long while I am sleeping. This demon is always pacing around. She's monitoring. This is a demonic spirit, and it's a psychopath that worships my genitalia. This is an incestuous sex offender who's obsessed with me, but this is the spirit operating over what is a blood relative. So this is how you have this conflicting conduct. And this is not a victim. Tracy Banks willingly presents her body as to be used by Satan. And Satan makes, in case you did not know, Satan is not your friend. Satan hates you. Satan makes you a sex offender. Satan makes you a psychopath. Satan makes you a stalker. Okay, Satan makes you a deranged lunatic that engages in highly peculiar conduct, malicious in everything that you're doing, wanting to hide the fact that they are engaging in what is highly deranged behaviors. While also they engage in the pattern they tend to engage in, accusing others of what they are actually engaged in. That's the character of Satan. It's called malice. It's also called psychological torture, as I'm prosecuting the entity. So I want to go ahead and digress there. At 5:57 in the morning, in the dark, and you'll see images that I'm capturing, the demon is engaging in what is ordinary activity, but it's, again, committed by a demon. So that's why the ability to interrupt my sleep while I'm wearing headphones, listening to content, and in an unconscious state sleeping, but it's so loud, it's so impactful that it pierces through the headphones in order to disrupt sleep. That's not the natural sound of what it is that this demon was doing when she intentionally interfered with my sleep. And whether it's an accident or whether it's intentional is not legally significant. It's the entity that's stalking inside of an apartment. And the fact that you signed the lease is an admission. You don't have a constitutionally protected right to live here. The entity is already surrounded by evidence. Okay? So understand what it is as I'm describing it. It's not, the entity is focused on, again, semantics because it doesn't understand how it's being prosecuted. So it's not a matter of, and you're not going to sit in court and argue about, well, it was a legitimate accident versus it being intentional. It's intentional because it's under the fake sun and an engineered light in concert with the government that's gang stalking. And that's ceaselessly underway. It is all intentionally underway on behalf of that corrupt system. While this entity is acting through a demon-possessed sex offender who is threatening my life day and night, maliciously continuing to gang stalk me while the sex offender knows about everything I document. And that's also what I documented. Everything that I'm typing about, everything that I'm capturing images of this morning, this is a psychopath that's pacing inside of her apartment. Engineer light is on the inside of the apartment, and you can see it at around the 6 a.m. hour where it's appearing in the dark living room where there is no sunlight. And it's also not sunlight while the fake sun is brightly shining over the apartment building. It's not sunlight. It's the evidence of stalking. And you're looking at a psychopath that's stalking somebody where they live. Why do you stalk someone where they're living? Because you think that you'll never be identified as stalking and that no one would ever connect the two. The fact that how can I be stalking somebody where I live? That's the mind state of Satan. Okay? That's the malice of the demon possessed. And that's the current status of traditional stalking, criminal stalking under existing law. The government is engaged in a pattern of conduct that is very much stalking at an unprecedented level through a highly malicious means. And it is occurring where you live, where you work, where you are present. You don't have to have any sort of residence or any sort of tie. Any stranger can come on the ground and cross path and monitor my genitalia while they all know that my panties are down and my legs are spread open in the bathroom. That's speaking to how egregious the sex offensive federal group stalking and monitoring is, while an entire population is keeping you under surveillance. And this is what an incestuous, sex offending, obsessed, demon-possessed gang stalker like Tracy Banks is engaged in, is excited by, and criminally facilitates. So she's waking me up at 5:57 in the morning. Okay? And she does so through the supernatural occurrence while she's digging in the trash bag. She was doing this while she was pacing around and monitoring the evidence that I was creating about the criminal offense. It's not private activity. It's not just a rude co-occupant. This is activity creation and engineered light, and it's psychological torture. It's an ongoing communication of a threat by the state that also knows that I'm documenting them. Her. So it's literally to the entity's own demise while I document your presence on yet another day. Now, the federal government knows that you're still gang stalking where you live. The federal government knows that the system hasn't ceased, but it's ongoing evidence to their own demise. They are more and more embarrassed. They are more and more exposed. They are exposed to and subject to more and more time in federal prison, longer and longer confinement in mental asylums, more and more damages to be awarded, more and more corrupt companies justly removed from existence, prosecuted for sexual violence, prosecuted and identified as domestic enemies, more and more being deported out of this country. That's what the prize is, where the sex offender, Tracy Banks, is obsessed with me and is pacing around in the dark. And it is the supernatural that while she's digging in a trash bag, it's so loud that it's piercing through the content that I'm listening to on headphones and waking me up. Okay. And this is also shown because while I'm documenting and I'm awake, she's doing the same thing, digging in the trash can and walking back and forth. And it's nothing that I can even, it's barely any sort of disruption whatsoever. This is somebody that's practicing witchcraft. You did not know yet. I am showing you federal group stalking and monitoring is the practice of witchcraft right in your face. The fake sun, this is demonic. This is ritualistic conduct that you're looking at while they're not walking around and riding their bikes and driving around. They're pacing. It's significant while they're maintaining motion in this engineered light, and it's very demonic. It's ritualistic. It's the practice of witchcraft. Okay, if you relate witchcraft with chanting, okay, so what you need to understand and file under that category in your mind, movement in the engineered light is as chanting is with regard to the practice of witchcraft. Okay, that's what this is. And it's accomplishing what is a demonic and malicious means of surveillance that you're looking at and you're ignorant about. Okay, in the same way that someone can speak word curses over you by the content of their speech, and you're not aware that they're practicing witchcraft while they speak things that are false against your character or against your identity, against who you are as a person. That's the practice of witchcraft. Gossiping about you, that's the practice of witchcraft. And that's not just semantics, and that's not just using things that are synonymous in order to accomplish what I want to get to the point of with some sort of multifaceted use of language. No, it's literally witchcraft practices. Okay, so this is how you have the sound of what is bombs detonating while the elderly are walking around outside and walking in their apartments. That's the practice of witchcraft. I have given it titles in order that everyone can be on the same page as I walk you through what Satan is doing, targeting an American citizen. Satan is using the government. Satan is using the population. It is gang stalking. And I've shown you the entirety of how that system operates. It's not one individual. It's not just one way of targeting you. You're not focused on one specific thing. You're not married to any one image. It is one pattern of conduct. It is a multiplicity of faces. It is at all times, at all places. All right. But you're talking about the plethora of methods to engage in the same pattern of conduct. And the flexibility of mind is required in order to understand that. There are people that I've seen attempt on the internet try to define what is gang stalking as it's referred to, and they've committed themselves to one way of doing it, and that's what Satan wants you to do. And they're not even addressing the fact that it's demonic. So you're going to miss that malicious nature of the system altogether. Okay, but you're talking about doing the same thing, and you're dealing with a population. You could do the same thing hundreds of different ways. Okay, amplification of vehicles accelerating, impossible audible activity, amplification. That's a practice of witchcraft. It's demonic. It is intended to monitor, though. It's noise in the engineered light while a whole bunch of people surround you. They're all stalking together in that engineered light. They're not walking around. They're actually cockroaches in the spirit, and they're crawling around like cockroaches. They're pacing. They're all monitoring. And Satan's spirit is in all of them. This is what's happening in the spirit that you're unaware of. But what physically I'm prosecuting, because you're establishing the government is stalking you when you're not engaged in lawful surveillance. You're stalking. When you don't have a warrant and probable cause, you're stalking me while you're following me around. And you're not protected under the Constitution, nor are you impervious to being identified and prosecuted because you're stalking me while you're a demon, thinking that no one will ever recognize the fact that stalking is identified while a whole fake environment remains around me everywhere that I'm going. And I'm showing you a pattern of conduct amongst a multiplicity of faces. Every police department is stalking me. Every sheriff's department is stalking me. Every apartment complex filled with people is stalking me. Every location, address where I'm going, every venue, irrespective of the type of venue, is stalking while they're maintaining presence in that demonic environment. This is the demon possessed that are gang stalking. Stalking as a gang, stalking as a group. And this is what's happening while the entity is waking me up in the dark in the living room at Woodside Senior Apartments. Okay, this is the entity that I take pictures of, and it's the supernatural occurrence while you're digging in a trash bag, and that's waking me up somehow. This is a demon that uses magic. She uses witchcraft to target her daughter, whom she wants to be me. She's obsessed with my genitalia. She's obsessed with every detail of my life. She's obsessed with my accomplishments. She's obsessed with my identity, the way that I live my life, the decisions that I've made versus the decisions that she's made. She's again deluded by Satan because she made a series of bad decisions based on whatever happened in her past, but she's engaged in harming me as well, and I did not make those same mistakes. Okay, so her inferiority complex, her insecurities, her poor life decisions have nothing to do with me. This is a demon-possessed person who is now going to be in a mental asylum for the rest of her life because she targeted her daughter who was prosecuting her. And I know that you're a demon, and I'm going to prosecute you and every other demon that thought that you were going to murder me, and no one was ever going to suspect it. Okay, because you think your sex cult is so powerful, you think that your magic, your spells are so potent that no one is ever going to see past the illusion that is created in the specific environment, the illusion that's created by the gang stalkers themselves, who create reality in the way that they want to. But that does not circumvent, that does not supersede actual law, the way that the law operates, and reality. The reality is that these demons are in a circus environment and they're all stalking together. If you want to use your business, you want to use your children, you want to use your place of residence, you want to use your company, you want to use your instrumentalities of interstate commerce, such as planes and helicopters that are then connected to airports and police departments and sheriff's departments, etc. Oh, then you want to go to prison, and you are blowing the whistle on all aspects of that system as well. The government has already established as stalking. This is how I'm able to capture helicopters following me around. And you know that it's following me around because the fake sun remains over me, a supernatural occurrence. What's going on in that supernatural environment is directly relevant to the evidence of stalking of a highly malicious nature. The government has already proven to be stalking. So disrupting my sleep in the apartment, doing so through the demonic means of digging in a trash bag, which is somehow so impactful that it's disrupting sleep. And then you're doing the same thing while I'm awake. That's a demon that was using magic. Okay, and this is somebody that envies me and envies my life decisions versus she had the same opportunity to make better decisions and she didn't. So because you choose promiscuity and you choose to engage in prostitution based on whatever hurt you have in your life, it's not an excuse. You've made those decisions. You have aligned yourself with Satan, extended your vessel as a use for wickedness, and you came and targeted the wrong person. Someone perhaps that she thought that she was superior to. You're not superior to your children. You're a steward of your children. And Christ Jesus has used what is somebody she bore in the natural, but to whom she is spiritually inferior to because she serves the enemy who was already defeated. She's going to a mental asylum and she put everybody else in prison for longer. As I capture her pacing in and out of the apartment at what is during the 7 a.m. hour, you're paying attention to the documentation because the entity has been maintaining such that the fake sun is now rising, what is catty corner to the units 33 through 48 during the 8 a.m. hour. And also, well, I captured it a little bit before 8 a.m. I captured it approximately 7:51 in the morning. But nonetheless, you're just paying you're paying attention to the documentation. None of this is the sun. None of this is sunlight. I'm showing you the inconsistency. In other words, I'm merely making fun of Satan while I'm prosecuting him. Okay, this idiocy with regard to the specific environment, but it's directly relevant to the stalkers who are surrounding, and that's what's relevant when you're seeing Tracy Banks pacing in and out of the front door. Her shadow is appearing upright on the patio blinds. This is what's captured in still images. And she is engaged in not only monitoring me, like she was this morning when she was interfering with sleep. It's the criminal interference of quiet enjoyment where you're stalking where you live. It is the criminal conduct by AVANATH. It is the criminal conduct by the residents at WOODSIDE in your apartments and the employees. It is the criminal conduct of the city of Ontario who's monitoring me through a co-occupant inside of her own apartment, yes, where she pays rent, and she's going to a mental asylum from here. All right. This is the government that has no warrant or probable cause to maintain surveillance maliciously through the population, because that's exactly what the state of California is doing, which the evidence has already established. Somebody that is blinded by their obsession and forgetting that they're being prosecuted and their prize is permanent confinement for the rest of her life. Tracy Banks. Okay. And she is speaking to what everybody else that's engaged in this P.O.C. in whatever way, what they are intentionally, knowingly aiding and facilitating as well. Gang stalking me. All of her friends, all of her sex partners, all of her relatives, all of my former associates, because they're not legitimate, they're not actual friends because they were gang stalking me and they were engaged in having sex with her and engaged in this sex cult with her, and with the entity, in other words, while they were monitoring me the whole time. This is what they were engaged in. Okay, and so I'm prosecuting this demon who was targeting me inside of the dark apartment where engineer lights appearing on the east living room wall, and as she walks outside of the apartment, monitoring evidence the entire time. That's the state monitoring federal evidence as though you're going to tell the federal government you're going to continuously engage in domestic terrorism. Okay, I just want to document right now, 8:37 a.m. engineer light through what is the illumination of impossible light activity where it's not the sun and it's also not sunlight, and it's just getting brighter and dimmer and brighter and dimmer. It's analogous to hazard lights blinking on and off. It's analogous to turning a light on and off. RGS, AVANATH Capital Management, the state of California, the demons going to prison, etc. They're all monitoring this evidence. The state is monitoring this evidence while engaged in what is terrorism via directed light, which AVANATH, a corrupt landlord company, is going to be prosecuted for. So I want to document that because that's coexisting with everything that I'm saying right now. And this is the same apartment complex where you see the fake sun over the same exact apartment while I'm looking out the same patio glass door window, the same front door, the same living room window, 8 hours from now. Yeah, 8 hours from now, after 4 o'clock. This is where the fake sun, and it's not sunlight, it's engineered light that's focused on where I'm at. And again, the demons are communicating hostility. The demons are hostile. You are deducing that through the impossible light activity. The demons are hostile. You're deducing that through the amplified audible activity. Okay, also through the stalking with in the presence in the path conduct. And that is also criminal conduct. It's not sunlight. You know the nature of this light. So they're monitoring evidence, and it's also communication of a threat intended to psychologically harm. All right, so I just want to document that. That's in real time. This is what the demon is doing. Tracy Banks, while she's walking out of the front door. This is seconds before I start capturing video of the entity that is also engaged in the ceaseless P.O.C. with her. This is a gang stalking mother who wants to replace somebody that she's never going to replace. No spell work, no sex ritual, no voodoo, no witchcraft practitioner is ever going to give you, snatch from me, my legal skill set that I gathered when I went to school and learned the law. Okay, you're also not going to get it by being on any person's genitalia, no matter how much of a connection you think that person has to me. None of these demons have any connection to me. They're demons that are stalking in the spirit. They're engaged in spiritual attacks. They're engaged in criminal monitoring, but take apart from the law, they're engaged in monitoring. These are monitoring spirits, but do not have any connection to me, and they have no spiritual power. Okay, it's only the demon possessed and the sex offender like Tracy Banks who thinks that she's going to derive my legal skill set from rampant sexual activity, including with those whose name I know. Okay, that's just somebody that is oppressed with the Jezebel spirit. Okay, so anyway, the entity's pacing in and out of the apartment. That's Tracy Banks, and you'll see the impossible light activity as I'm pointing to it. And she's pacing while she picks up a trash bag, walks out of the front door, comes back in, picks up another trash bag, walks out of the front door. And this is where the engineer light is appearing on the patio glass doors on the inside. And this is where, again, what the entity is doing, even though that's not sunlight, logically, scientifically, actually, it is not sunlight and it's impossible. However, you are also prosecuting based on the malice of the entity that presents this illusion when they're stalking somebody conspicuously, including through those whose name you know, like this demon Tracy Banks. So while the entity is gang stalking in engineered light and doing so in concert with the whole entity, because she's not doing that by herself, the entity is doing so while that is evidence of what is, first of all, co-defendants, co-conspirators. The entity is monitoring while you're seeing that, while she's doing that. And also the fake sun documentation is being added to, because while that's not sunlight, the entity is admitting to, with regard to the specific environment, this fake sun. And as I document video, you see the entity make a series of omissions, because there is no, it's damned if you do and damned if you don't. If I get the fake sun, it's federal prison for everybody. Gang stalking. If I don't get the fake sun, it's federal prison, because the fake sun being present is not the explanation for this engineer light. The fake sun being absent is speaking to, again, what is not the explanation for this engineer light. None of it is naturally explained away. It is a criminal conduct of federal group stalking and monitoring practiced by an entity, and it is damned if you do, damned if you don't. This is how I have put Satan in a corner, because as I go to any angle through the closed blinds, you'll see the fake sun in perfect alignment while I aim my camera there. As I go down toward the floor, and you see engineer light stretched across the living room floor, as I put my camera down there, oh, that's supposed to be, because that's where the sun is aimed also, down at the floor, underneath the covered patio, into the depths of the living room through the closed blinds, okay, into the apartment. As I open up the front door and crack it open, you'll see the fake sun in perfect alignment through the crack of that door. This is, again, speaking to what is illogical, and Satan, again, never planned for it to ever be scrutinized. But you can see it is clear asininity. You do not have to be intelligent or have any credentials. You don't even have to have any life goals to be engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring. The government is acting through an entire population and a corrupt government. That's a threat to your life, because any bum, all right, any college educated professional is facilitating it. That's a threat to you. And you are surrounding them with the evidence of you are surrounding them with the evidence of malice while they're doing everything that they're doing in that specific environment. And it is encompassed in what is a fake sun rising and setting while I stay at one apartment, where there is no provision that the natural environment will include at the same time there being a sun anywhere. It's not even going to be in Riverside, California, let alone in Miami, Florida, as I will continuously remind you. What else or another one of my isms that I say? There's only one sun, not 14, but not with regard to when you are understanding, recognizing the P.O.C. with regard to the specific environment. This is requiring more than one sun. This is, in other words, opening your eyes regarding the environment that surrounds you, where you're at. If you find this to be entertainment of what it is that I'm documenting, you probably you need to get your heart checked and you need to get your mind checked, because what's happening to me as an American citizen may very well happen to you. While it's a threat to my life, it's a threat to your life. And that's what you need to recognize. And that includes these demon-possessed gang stalkers. The entity at any point is targeting any person in order to murder and kidnap that person, where they decide as an entity, we don't want this person to exist anymore. This is the organized crime of federal group stalking and monitoring. While it is designed to target those who are being persecuted like myself, because I don't serve Satan, because a demon-possessed gang stalking elder like Tracy Banks, who was never going to be me, wasn't even me when she was in her 20s like me. We made totally different life decisions. We went down two totally different paths. We have two totally different capabilities, okay? She's not the most academic and intellectual, if you will, okay? No shade, but I'm just being honest. So this is somebody that's literally relying on what's between her legs to help garner her power in life. This is the deceit of Satan, who was using her, who knows that it was never going to be successful. Okay? Now, this is not to say that Satan is the ruler. He's not the kingpin. Christ Jesus is. Satan is literally exploiting those who will extend their vessels in order for him to use, because he's trying to snatch as many people into the pit of hell as possible. So if you're foolish enough to go against a child of God that Satan knows it's not going to work, it's not going to happen, it's not going to be successful. But these demons think that it's a numbers game. Oh, the more powerful your position is. I don't care if you think you're a mayor, you're going to find yourself out of office. Be careful, because you'll find yourself in federal court being prosecuted. Be careful. You are not excluded from that. I'm continuously documenting the mayor of the city of Ontario for federal group stalking and monitoring. Okay, I'm continuously documenting the ongoing terrorism by the Ontario Police Department, engaged in a documented pattern of kidnapping and domestic terrorism intended to obstruct justice. While they are monitoring the evidence, and so it is even more of a direct threat, while I name you, while I identify your department, and I remain subject to the system, and the government acts directly. By the way, the government doesn't ever have to arrive physically in a manner that I perceive it in order to prosecute the state. That's an afterthought, by the way. I prosecuted at the forefront the state for stalking me, and then I spoke years ago. I'm going to prosecute the people now, meaning I'm going to focus on them. I documented hundreds of license plates. I went from city to city. I documented what the people of the state are doing, which is exactly what the state is doing in the specific environment, which is identical, which defies nature, speaking to malice of a whole operation of stalking one person. Speaking to how important I am, how much they are worshiping my genitalia, which is nauseating and disturbing concerted activity of a whole society, who want you to focus on them pushing strollers and holding landscaping tools and wearing business suits and engaging in what is wearing badges and uniforms and whatnot. They're demons, they're stalkers, and they're psychopaths. And you are able to categorize over a group in this manner, distinct from where ordinarily normal people, you do have to prove individually what one person is doing, what one person's intent is. But this is different when you are understanding the pattern of conduct of federal group stalking and monitoring, where the entity is acting collectively, maliciously as one, and they are sharing a condition of demon possession, and they're sharing malice. They're sharing a criminal objective. And they're all demons while they're doing so. They're all demons under a fake sun. Yeah, they're all demons stalking with activity creation. They're all demons, mentally ill psychopaths who look to the left and the right as a way of practicing this system. It doesn't work against me. I'm showing you, the listener, psychopaths whose former engagement and looking to the left and the right is supposed to make somebody else look crazy. It doesn't. You look like a demon and a psychopath under the fake sun while this light is appearing and disappearing all over the place and all manner of amplified noise. I have thoroughly showed all of the angles of the crime. Now look again at this demon. Look, you're looking at a psychopath. That's what you're seeing. And that's been my goal from the beginning. Ongoing, amplified, glowing engineer light, getting brighter and dimmer, while RGS is gang stalking. RGS's license plate is recited in the video that I captured. 8GED 638 is license plate gang stalking in the path. They're gang stalking by residents as well. They're going to federal prison. The Latino male and his grandmother or his mother, they're both going to prison. Okay, they are sharing in sexual violence. This is a family of genitalia worshipers. Okay, while they're gang stalking a woman together as a family event. That's what they're doing while they're gang stalking on behalf of the corrupt government. This is what the government facilitates, encourages. This is what the government is engaged in concert with the corrupt population, full of sex offenders and stalkers. All right. And that's the reality of it. And these third parties, these license plates is what you're paying attention to. I'm documenting very specifically for a reason. And when I say federal prison, it's based on intolerable level of facilitation. You're going to prison where you're living at the crime scene. You're committed to 24-hour surveillance. You're going to prison. You're going to prison where you're systematically, repeatedly, like smart janitorial, like universal waste systems. Those demons haven't escaped. The demon that was engaged in monitoring me in my bedroom in the dark at 5 o'clock in the morning, and that demon would drive into the parking lot, engaging in psychological torture, while engineered light would appear inside of my dark bedroom while I'm laying there in the dark. And the dumpster is a means of amplified noise. I'm on the 3rd floor. They are routinely emptying garbages throughout the city. It's not that which is going to interfere with quiet enjoyment. It's so loud. It's so pervasive. It's going to wake you up from your sleep. I'm not some hypersensitive plaintiff. I am aware, and I'm documenting what is on its face abnormal. You are probably not aware of how abnormal it is, and so I just let you focus in on it, and you will see it. I know that you'll see it because it's not normal. All right, this is the entity that's gang stalking about universal waste system. You're talking about just a different name. It's called City of Ontario in Ontario, California. It's called RGS in AVANATH Capital Management in Ontario, California at Woodside Senior Apartments. These are legally significant titles. Just like speaker companies, Alvarado Gardens, smart janitorial, universal waste systems, the demons that were systematically, repeatedly engaging in monitoring, criminal monitoring, which is domestic terrorism. You're going to prison. There is no statute of limitations. There is no changing place of residence. There is no going to a different job or moving to a different state. This long arm of federal law will find you and you're going to prison. As surely as they conspired with the government to get away with murdering someone, that's why you're engaged in psychologically torturing me on my 3rd floor bedroom in the dark, and engineered light is moving all across my walls while that demon emptying the garbage every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday would cross path in that parking lot in concert with LAPD. Yeah, they're going to prison. They're going to prison. All right. That's an intolerable level of facilitation, and this must be recognized and appreciated under federal law. In the same way, again, blowing up buildings where a lot of people at one time die, you don't like that either. Neither shall the federal Neither shall the federal and state government engage in what is the calculated system of targeting American citizens in order to murder them maliciously, to kidnap them maliciously. You shall not do that either, while they knock off American citizens one by one. And I want to be clear, federal group stalking and monitoring is not only that which would target one person. Federal group stalking and monitoring is the same exact system that will kill hundreds of people at one time. These are plane crashes. They're acts of terrorism. Okay, and plane crashes, crashing into whatever else is. You have a lot of people that are dying at one time. Okay, these are acts of federal group stalking and monitoring as well, and it needs to be appreciated as such because that's exactly what it is. Okay, so I just wanted to make sure that I preface the documentation that you will hear. Well, I'm going to go ahead and put this after. I'm going to put the video first. The written text documentation embodied in WSA-The People for today, February 28, 2025. It is a document that I save on a daily basis every day as I'm documenting in the best way that you can as a human being, where you cannot quantify and it's not adequate to merely use words to what the ordinary target individual is suffering, and the demon possessed that are gratified by it, like Tracy Banks, she's excited by it. This is somebody this is an imp.
This is somebody that is intellectually inept, somebody that is excited and enthusiastic about my referencing psychological torture and engaging in it, but not understanding that the federal prosecutor is referencing psychological torture in order to underscore the level of violence that an American citizen is suffering, the malice and the intent to mentally break down someone in order to murder them. That's what, again, somebody that is a delusional psychopath doesn't recognize, and that's good because those type of terrorists belong in the mental asylum. That's where Tracy Banks is going. Okay, they're excited by the title, but it's being referenced not because you're accomplishing it. It's because I'm identifying what their conduct is accomplishing, what their intent behind what they're doing, especially while they know that it's being documented, is designed and reasonably intended to accomplish, and why that is requiring the penalties that I have advocated, that any other terrorist would be subject to. Prison, where terrorists belong. Okay, criminal records, which sex offenders need to have in order that the rest of the country knows who they are. Okay, this is the entity that's engaging in that. It is currently 8:53 a.m. Engineer light moving across Tracy Banks' front door while RGS is gang stalking in the parking lot. And they're doing so with impunity. Like I stated in the video, you see the fake sun over my over the top of my head as I captured the fake sun during the 11 a.m. hour yesterday. At 7 in the morning today, the fake sun is present while RGS is stalking in the path, and all manner of chicanery with this impossible light, speaking to stalking through a commercial means. This is what Uber Eats was engaged in. This is what the Ontario Police Department were engaged in, flying over my head while I'm documenting its co-defendants, the people of the state, the elderly that are engaged in domestic terrorism in this country, who are very violent sex offenders, threatening the lives of American citizens, engaging in a program of psychological torture, while impossible light activity sweeps across the bedroom door, while a bunch of old people are monitoring evidence. They're going to prison for that in units 33 through 64. And the evidence proving of everything that I'm stating in this audio documentation, where you cannot see it, is proven by the fact, the supernatural occurrence, which is a proven fact, that a sun remains over the apartment building, stalking in the path, the evidence of everyone stalking through all malicious means, including corrupt businesses like AVANATH Capital Management at its own facilitating venue, not a private residence where any legitimate business or company operation is underway, and RGS are gang stalking. That's the proof that impossible light activity is sweeping across the bedroom door, and doing so while evidence that's being used for the federal prosecution is underway. So that's the demons who want to go to federal prison. That's the demons who want damages to devastate the company. That's the damages, that's the entity, the state government that is welcoming being removed from as a corrupt company altogether as a prosecuted and established domestic enemy, gang stalking companies. All right, that's the significance of impossible light while I'm documenting it. That's the foolishness behind targeting and using psychological torture against the federal prosecutor, which is what the demon possessed are doing. And why? Because they're too stupid to understand how they're being prosecuted. So the loser engages in more criminal activity to its own demise. Okay, this is just causing the psychopath to suffer the consequences that are inevitable. That's literally what Satan's problem is, because you're stupid and you can't anticipate what's coming for you, and you thought that you were going to outnumber somebody in order to murder them secretly and falsely depict them publicly, okay, and doing so. All right, so it is currently, AVANATH Capital Management is being prosecuted for the documentation of terrorism via directed light, which is fully established by my audio documentation. And I also have a wealth of corroborating evidence speaking to the reality of exactly what I just stated is the case inside of this private space, where the occurrence of engineered light is the evidence of criminal surveillance, where a landlord company is going to be prosecuted for the Violence Against Women Act violations by the entire venue, by its employees, and by those with whom it is inviting onto the property grounds to share in that egregious sex offense committed by a government through such corrupt companies like RGS. Okay, it is currently 8:56 a.m. and this is just speaking to what Tracy Banks initiated this morning, waking me up. And what is the prize of a demon that's obsessed with me, gang stalking me because she can never be me, is getting more time in federal prison for the demons that are continuously engaging gang stalking with her. More ongoing evidence that the government is gang stalking via AVANATH Capital Management. and that the government is acting with impunity in doing so. All right, none of this is private action. None of it is constitutionally protected. And this is the venue where the city of Ontario intends and has admitted that it will engage in federal group stalking and monitoring today in the specific environment, doing so with regard to threatening my life and my safety, and not operating under any constitutionally protected bases where the system of federal group stalking and monitoring is underway and facilitated by the corrupt municipality, the city of Ontario. And I literally documented these demons working for the city of Ontario, which is under the fake sun. I documented this in 2024, fall of 2024, where the fake sun is over me at 9 o'clock in the morning. And then I have also left here and then went to hotels in, for example, Hesperia in Victorville, where all of a sudden the sun is going from rising and setting here to being over the Holiday Inn off of Palmdale Road in Victorville, California. That's the P.O.C. Okay. And this is what the city of Ontario is engaged in. So while those state actors arrive, that's exposing them to federal prison. That's a state actor. That's a government actor. And they act with impunity, as though you're going to continue as a municipality practicing domestic terrorism and psychological torture in the face of the federal prosecutor who happens to be in the shoes of the ordinary target individual, and like you're going to stay out of federal prison. No, you're going to prison. You're going. And this is, again, teaching the states to respect federal law and not engage in terrorizing American citizens, and also exposing it so that no city, no state can torture and terrorize American citizens and it remain a secret, because you are all aware, no matter where you're at, that you are surrounded by the specific environment because there is only one sun. And I have shown how a fake sun is rising and setting at one address in Ontario, California, where the city of Ontario is corrupt and engaging in federal group stalking and monitoring through maintaining inspections, while they know exactly what's going on inside of this apartment. They know exactly who's in here, and they're exhibiting mental instability and high level of malice, psychological torture, and impunity, which requires federal prison. Okay, it is currently, again, 8:58 a.m. ongoing impossible light activity under the fake sun. This is AVANATH Capital Management acting with the city of Ontario as well, while they admit to being present today and engaging in criminal conduct that is removing demons like Paul Leon, a domestic terrorist leader, from office, where all of the departments, all of the offices are engaged in domestic terrorism, public corruption. All right, and this is the P.O.C. It is, again, 8:58 a.m. on February 28, 2025. This is P.O.C. All right, here is more evidence that's serving to prosecute the people of the state, third-party AVANATH Capital Management. So this is engineer light that's appearing at a tremendous distance from the covered patio. Okay, and the fake sun is outside above the same apartment building where I'm located. And so as you can, well, you can't see, here's my hand. The light is shooting across horizontally, and it's creating shadow inside of my shadow is appearing inside, and it's a magnified size of my hand. This is speaking to criminal surveillance that's happening at what is not a private residential area or property. It's a facilitating venue for surveillance. And this is also documentation of what is malice and impunity by a corrupt company, including RGS, that comes onto the ground, gang stalking with the company, the employees, the residents, and the city of Ontario, the population itself that's coming onto the grounds, gang stalking as one entity. And the fact that I'm capturing ongoing iterations of impossible light activity, the more that I document, yeah, that's P.O.C. I've documented this before. This is the conduct of the demon possessed. Okay, that's the conduct of the demon possessed. This is going on the internet. That's speaking to stalkers, including RGS. It has nothing to do, like I stated, has nothing to do with the fake sun. Okay, the fake sun is indeed over the property. These are distinct methods of recognizing criminal surveillance, and it's terrorism. And this is a sex offense. They're monitoring what my genitalia between my legs while this is underway, and an entire complex is full of sex offenders over 55. This is what Tracy Banks is practicing. She worships my genitalia as an incestuous sex offender, gang stalking her daughter, targeting her daughter with an entire government in furtherance of murdering and kidnapping me, and as a demon-possessed gang stalker, engaging in psychological torture and doing so as a blood relative, maliciously targeting me, and also engaged in criminal defamation. This is the fake sun that's outside. Has nothing to do with the engineer light that you just saw inside, and dynamic engineer light. Linda Reyes is going to prison. That's what this evidence is also showing you. She's going to prison. And these are the people that are stalking. That's RGS, Federal Stalking Title 18. It's called Stalking in the Path.
And they're not ignorant about the impossible light, the supernatural environment. This is exposing that psychotic system of sex offenders that are stalking while a fake sun remains stationary over all of them. They're also aware of that supernatural ongoing occurrence. Okay, this is called conspicuous stalking. While you're looking at them, they're engaged in impunity. All right, RGS employees subject to federal prison, and RGS is going to be prosecuted civilly and criminally for federal group stalking and monitoring. The company is practicing a sex offense. The company is engaged in domestic terrorism and psychological torture. The company is engaged in criminal facilitation as well. Currently, again, the current time is 1:36 p.m. and you saw this fake sun at 7 o'clock. These demons are monitoring. They're all pacing, moving around in engineer light. That's also filling my apartment, while an apartment complex is the headquarters for federal group stalking and monitoring. The employees of AVANATH are going to prison. The City of Ontario's gang stalking with AVANATH, which represents, again, the people acting with the state. The entity is engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring on a ceaseless basis. And terrorism via directed light is criminal interference with quiet enjoyment. They're all violation of the Violence Against Women Act as well. This entire property is going to be displaced. They're not remaining and receiving any housing benefits as I'm prosecuting the entire venue. This is P.O.C. All right, that's how a demon-possessed population and a corrupt government act together to target an American citizen. And that specific environment is the evidence of that criminal system in furtherance of what is murder and kidnapping, because this is why the government's engaged in surveillance. All right, that's P.O.C. It's currently 1:37 p.m. All righty, just want you to see this is the covered patio. Where sunlight is never appearing. Again, I'm showing it on the ceiling. I'm showing it remaining stationary around the door on the ceiling. I'm showing it appearing underneath covered structures on the inside of the apartment. If you're looking at the images, it's appearing and disappearing, moving closer and closer to me. So are the demons that you're seeing gang stalking in units 33 through 64. The two that are inside of those are standing right outside in the path while this engineer light's moving on the inside. Those are the demon possessed, and they're monitoring me as I catch the engineered light, and then it disappears, it moves away on video. That's a terrorizing threat to your safety and your well-being. Okay, that's a form of psychological torture. That is interfering with quiet enjoyment. That is serving to criminally prosecute a gang stalker in the trade of property management, AVANATH Capital Management. And not only that, the demons that you saw standing outside of their apartments out here, that was apartment number, that will be apartment number 50 and 49. They're gang stalking in the path. Okay, they are doing so while they are focused on what I'm doing. Every move that I make, everything that I say, everything that I'm doing is what these demons are focused on. And you are able to deduce that, you know that, because the government is stalking me, as I've already proven, and the government is stalking with the people of the state. This is showing that stalking system. That is a concerted act of very detailed and highly diligent conduct, not by intelligent people, but by demon-possessed people. Okay, the spirit of Satan is on them, and that's how you have that level of diligence. It's not because that they're super canny and crafty and intelligent. It doesn't require intelligence. It requires intelligence. It requires demon possession. All right, it is currently, again, 1:39 p.m. This is prosecution of AVANATH Capital Management, which represents the people of the state, and this is the evidence also prosecuting the state of California. Also, you're mindful of the fact that the entity kept the fake sun over Alvarado Gardens in Los Angeles, and neither of those placements of the fake sun, which cannot coexist, and neither does the sun remain stationary over one apartment complex for the duration of the day. None of it's creating the light that I'm capturing inside of the apartment. Okay, it's P.O.C. It is 1:39 p.m. Alrighty, it is currently 1:41 p.m. The demons that are gang stalking amongst the impossible light activity, which is the evidence of demons, and it's also the evidence of criminal stalking, and they're doing so in the demonic environment where I'm showing you light that is supernaturally occurring, manifesting on the inside of the apartment, having nothing to do with what sunlight could possibly do, naturally do, in an environment where the sun is not an idle object that would sit like it is doing idle over the same apartment building where I captured it on video during the 7 a.m. hour, where the same corrupt company, RGS, is indeed gang stalking. They are on video in operation of a communication device engaged in federal stalking. I just captured that video, what you are listening to, what you just heard, and at 1:40 p.m. the entity engaged in what is resuming amplified loud booming inside of the apartment. This is a criminal act of obstruction of justice of the same stalkers, the same sex offenders, obsessed and worshiping my genitalia, practicing the system of witchcraft in order to gang stalk and furtherance of murder and kidnapping, and engaged in what is then filling the apartment with amplified noises. Again, this is speaking to what the demon possessed are doing, putting it in a just-like type of form. These are the losers that are then engaging in what is harassment, terrorism, psychological torture because they're caught. Okay, that's speaking to a sex offender that is a threat to the public.
Okay, so 1:40 p.m., 1:41 p.m., 1:42 p.m. right now, ongoing amplified booms inside of the apartment. And this is literally seconds after I captured this very damning video that I will be publishing, and that's why I'm including it in the podcast. This is the prosecution of Daryl J. Carter, the executives that are gang stalking in Orange County, California, and they are using a corrupt company, which is the malicious means of criminal facilitation of federal group stalking and monitoring. And as I'm subject to it, they are all going to be prosecuted, speaking to damages civilly and also criminally, the company itself. And you have Daryl J. Carter, who is the CEO and the chairman. And I want to be clear, they're gang stalking the company itself. This is the reality. They know that I'm documenting them. The company is aware. But nonetheless, they can deny all you want because I have facts speaking to what companies are going to be liable for, period. They don't have to ever admit in court that they're demon possessed, but you already know the facts. The evidence of speaking to, again, the impossible light activity that's inside of an apartment, that's speaking to criminal surveillance by a corrupt government that doesn't have any warrant or probable cause, who is stalking through the people that live at the apartment complex and the people that are remaining, like RGS, who is engaged in psychological torture as well. They're on video while at 1:40, 1:41, 1:42 p.m. ongoing amplified booming inside of the apartment, which is impunity. That's speaking to how many years the demons in units 33 through 64 and AVANATH Capital Management, sex offenders, gang stalking on the job for the corrupt company AVANATH who are going to federal prison, like Linda Reyes, how many years they deserve in federal prison, while the entity continuously acts in furtherance of murdering me, because this is why they're gang stalking at an apartment complex amongst the elderly at that, who are not physically incapable of creating ongoing amplified booming noises. These are criminal acts of retaliation, an ongoing threat to my well-being, my safety. It's a reasonable threat to my life and safety. This is the same entity that engaged in multiple kidnappings as well. This is the entity that's stalking me with the police department as well. This is the entity that's filling the apartment with amplified noises as I'm showing the evidence of what is impossible light activity, which is also under the impossible event naturally with regard to what is proven, so that the world can see the fake sun that sits idle over the same apartment complex. Everybody's going to prison in units 33 through 64. RGS employees that are acting with impunity, they're engaged in relevant positioning and light activity and operation of their communication devices in violation of Title 18, 2261A subsections 1 and 2. It's federal stalking. They are engaged in surveillance and they are monitoring this evidence as well, which is a criminal act of obstruction, and they are sharing in the engagement in what is psychological torture as well. And that corrupt company is also profiting. They're providing what is landscaping services while they're engaged in the criminal elements of monitoring, and they systematically engage in federal group stalking and monitoring, not any legitimate service provisions to the corrupt gang stalker AVANATH, and the corrupt gang stalking landscapers RGS are going to be prosecuted as well. All right, it's currently 1:45 p.m. I want to add this to punctuate the video that you just listened to, and I would suggest going onto the website. This is the P.O.C.wordpress.com, or go to the YouTube channel at the P.O.C, where I am publishing the evidence, because you should see these things. I've been capturing this level of evidence against the state for years, and this is the ongoing pattern of conduct, and it's impossible that I captured it one time and I have years of a body of evidence of this very same pattern, and then the entity engages in then seeking to psychologically torture as the demon possessed lose over and over and over and over. And I want to be clear, you lose when you are proving the fact that they're demons and that they're stalking, because the entire purpose of the government targeting you through the malicious means of using a demonic, being in a demonic environment, and one that you're not supposed to be aware of, one that you clearly are not supposed to be able to prove, or let alone provide an articulation and speak, providing words to define and explain what it is, what's the significance of it. All of this is speaking to how the demon possessed lose, how the entity, the state of California, loses. There's a body of evidence to show the state of California lost years ago. Okay, and so justice is going to be substantial, because the threat, the attempt on my life has been substantial, and it has continued for years, and the federal government is also sitting around while I'm subject to psychological torture in the form of impossible light activity, in the form of amplified ongoing noises, as I am documenting it and as I am witnessing it. It's psychological torture, okay? You'll see the engineer light just appearing out of nowhere, and then it just starts fanning off of the cabinets, and it's appearing above my head in the corner of the kitchen. I'm showing you how the engineer light is appearing on the living room floor. It disappears and it inches closer and closer to me. This is speaking to the demons who are both obsessed with me. They're stalking me. They're stalking me conspicuously right in my face, while they also know that I'm documenting it. And then they are engaged in what is trying to further harm me and inflict violence against me because I'm documenting and I'm blowing the whistle on them. This is exactly what the ordinary target individual is going to be protected from. All right. So I want to be clear. RGS employees are fully exposed for federal prison. This is intolerable facilitation regarding domestic terrorism, which is not tolerated in the United States. And it is in furtherance of murdering me and kidnapping me. So it is not asking too much. It is not requiring too much. It is not an overreach with regard to placing terrorists like RGS employees maliciously gang stalking with the corrupt government in the organized crime of federal group stalking and monitoring, putting them in federal prison. All right, the entity is doing so in pursuant to a pattern of conduct. That's how I have the specific environment captured in an entirely different region, which is Alvarado Gardens, where the fake sun remained from rising until setting, as I was documenting this time of year in February of 2024, where I was living and working. And the entity kept the fake sun from the beginning until the end of the day. And even when the entity was aware and documenting the evidence where I would compare it to what's going on in Ontario, California, much of my documentation is in reference to the gang stalking in Ontario, where you're identifying the specific environment, the rising of the sun through my living room window in LA versus the sunrise over me at the Ontario Museum of History and Arts. The wealth of evidence of the entity keeping the fake sun over me at the DMV in Rancho Cucamonga while I am over at that state facilitating venue, and the entity keeping the fake sun over the top of my head while I'm at my office at Alvarado Gardens in Los Angeles. This is the body of evidence speaking to the specific environment, speaking to the malicious engagement by a population that's stalking somebody in order to murder and kidnap them maliciously with the government, a whole government operation. And while the entity engages in psychological torture because they're sore losers, they're going to prison for even longer. This is exactly the type of gang conduct where people are attacking American citizens, and they exist in a bubble, and then they create a narrative about what happened to that person when they disappear, when they're physically harmed, when they are falsely depicted as that group of gang members harm them or harm their reputation or harm their interest, their property. I've been subject to all of the above. Okay, and this is criminal conduct that Tracy Banks remains a part of while I'm inside of her apartment, and this engineer lights fanning all across her cabinets, appearing and disappearing on her floor, the fake sun remaining over me inside of her apartment, amplified ongoing loud booming bombs like they're detonating inside of her apartment, under that light source in concert with the demons that surround. Tracy Banks is going to a mental asylum. Okay, this is an entity that is targeting a third party's relative by her solicitation. All right, she's fully complicit to that, and so is everybody else in Tracy Banks's family and her social circle, gang stalking me together, many of whom I have documented on the website. This is the P.O.C.wordpress.com. It is under what is the people of the state. Where I've identified many, there's a lot more, but many people that I have been in contact with, and they were gang stalking me the whole time. They were monitoring me. Every phone conversation and text message, every physical encounter when they're coming over my house or I'm going over there, they were gang stalking. And they've been doing so for years. I've just documented many of the people of the state. And Tracy Banks doesn't have to be in her apartment while I'm subject to the pattern of conduct. You're going to prison. She, in particular, is going to a mental asylum based on not just the fact that she's gang stalking, which the evidence she's surrounded by, but also the ongoing supplemental evidence regarding all the ways in which she sought to criminally defame me with the same state of California, again, engage in criminal activity, and then also trying to have me set up to take the fall for these criminal acts that I had nothing to do with. But again, under the circumstances of the ordinary target individual, they are given what is a fictitious prosecution in a corrupt venue that's monitoring and knows that they are innocent, is maliciously engaging in the exercise of fictitious authority, convicting them of crimes that they never committed, or diagnosing them of mental illness that they do not suffer from, in order to kidnap them in facilities where they remain subject to psychological torture and gang stalking by psychopaths who call themselves mental health professionals, inmates, patients, and deputies. Okay, of all ranks, not just the deputies, but the captains, and at all levels, there are gang stalking. Okay, the entity is doing so while it is exercising fictitious authority, and this is exposing public corruption. All right. This is, again, it is currently 1:51 p.m. Just want to make sure that I document that I'm subject to those criminal acts of retaliation by AVANATH Capital Management. All right. These ongoing criminal acts of intimidation and the ongoing psychological torture as I'm documenting it in order to prosecute what is public corruption, where a landlord is gang stalking you, as in the shoes of the state, where the property itself is a means where the government is engaging in surveillance, you will be prosecuted. Where you are, through your employees, engaged in the pattern of conduct, you will be prosecuted. Where you are engaging in the pattern of conduct and profiting off of those that are living on your property, you will be prosecuted. Where the state of California is engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring as an entire entity, the state, which I've been in Orange County, they're gang stalking and what is Irvine, where AVANATH is headquartered, you're going to be prosecuted. Where I'm documenting your company and I'm further exposed to ongoing harm, like I am now at 1:52 p.m., repeated, amplified, loud booming by the elderly who are walking around on canes and walkers, but yet the sound of booming is heard inside of the apartments, you're going to be prosecuted. So you will be liable for the harms that are suffered on your property, also while you're making money and while you are actually engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring, and you will be reasonably found to be engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring. And you're also going to be prosecuted for a crime because it's domestic terrorism. And if the corrupt companies in California have a problem with it, take it up with the state that's gang stalking with you. That is not the targeted individual's plight. The targeted individual's plight is avoiding murder and avoiding kidnapping. All right. And the interests are far outweighed by any greedy commercial actors who think that they can engage in terrorism and making a buck at the same time, which is what AVANATH Capital Management represents. Violation of the Violence Against Women Act by literally the landlord and every person living at Woodside. They're all going to be prosecuted. None of them are remaining in their apartments. And the demons in units 33 through 64 federal prison, Linda Reyes is engaged in ongoing criminal acts of intimidation. This is a terrorist that is stalking me where she works, where I'm remaining in relevant position under a fake sun in engineered light that I'm capturing inside of a private space, speaking to the fact that she is indeed stalking while she's also being paid by the corrupt, malicious actor AVANATH, her employer, the landlord of this corrupt property. And doing so with impunity. That is, she is gang stalking me, monitoring me, and engaged in federal stalking while filling me and engaged in psychologically harming me with ongoing amplified noise. Linda Reyes is going to prison for that. Okay, I continuously document this sex offender, this gang stalker, this corrupt actor, thinking that she can target an American citizen while going to work and making a buck every day, making a salary. Okay, this is the type of terrorist acts that the American public is practicing with what is a wildly corrupt government. Okay, and this is why Paul Leon and the likes of him are being removed from office as well. This is going from, again, every level when you're revealing and witnessing the inevitable aspects of public corruption when you are seeing all the levels that are at play simultaneously. It is currently 1:54 p.m. This is documentation of what is amplified audible activity, which is an act that's following the documentation, the video documentation of impossible light activity, which a bunch of demons, they're mad because I captured video. And so the entity engages in a pattern of inflicting further harms and acts of violence against the one that they're stalking. And they do so while they're monitoring evidence. It's also an admission that you're a sex offender while you are engaged in federal stalking. Okay, and this is everything that a gang stalking mother is committing as well. Don't forget that part. She's going to a mental asylum for the rest of her life. All right. It is currently, again, 1:55 p.m. This is P.O.C. on Friday, February 28, 2025.